The fall of Earth. The skies over Earth turned red long before the bombs fell. From orbit, the Thalzon fleet hovered like a silent storm, cold, methodical, merciless. Their ships were obsidian crescents, each one bristling with weapons designed not just to conquer, but to erase. Entire cities vanished in beams of searing plasma. EMP blasts crippled satellites, plunging Earth into a new kind of darkness, one that ran deeper than night. Admiral Vrozek watched it all from the bridge of his flagship, the Vindicator. The transmission flickered on a dozen screens, broadcasting Earth's collapse live to the greater galactic alliance. A dozen worlds cheered. The Death World had finally fallen. So much noise over so little resistance. Vrozek sneered, his voice curling through his translator. Primitive. Undisciplined. Pathetic. But not everyone had surrendered. In low orbit, what was left of Earth's orbital defense grid still spat defiance. A battered space station, once used for scientific research, now served as humanity's final line. Inside, Captain Elena Rourke gritted her teeth as she rerouted power from life support to the railguns. Her crew, exhausted and bleeding, worked in silence. There were no orders left to give. Everyone knew what this was. Final charge coming online, muttered Lieutenant Reyes, fingers dancing across the cracked screen. One shot. That's all we've got. Then make it count, Rourke said. The railgun fired. Its last shot, a tungsten slug that screamed through vacuum and punched a hole clean through one of the Thalzon destroyers. The alien ship bloomed into fire and silence. One down, hundreds to go. The retaliation was immediate. Plasma fire lanced through the station, tearing metal like paper. Explosions rippled through the hull as oxygen vented into space. Rourke grabbed a suit and shoved Reyes toward the escape pod. Go, she shouted, ignoring the pain in her side. Scatter and rendezvous at Site Black. You know the protocol. But, now. The pods jettisoned moments before the station exploded, a sunburst of debris that marked the official death of Earth's resistance. Also the Thalzon believed. Admiral Vrozek received confirmation hours later. Earth's leadership had been wiped out, its military crushed. Survivors would be hunted, systems cleansed. He issued the standard order, orbital lockdown, pacification, and resource extraction. Earth would be stripped, rebuilt, and added to the Empire's list of conquered worlds. He turned away from the screen, already thinking of the next campaign. He never noticed the small anomaly in the fleet logs, a missing drone convoy near the Kuiper Belt. Just another glitch, easily dismissed. Far beyond Neptune's orbit, a stealth frigate powered up in the shadow of a frozen moon. Inside, Captain Rourke floated weightless, watching old Earth newsreels and bandaging her side with torn fabric. We lost the battle, she whispered, eyes hard. Now we win the war. In the shadows. They called it Site Black, a place that officially didn't exist. Buried deep within the Kuiper Belt, carved into a dead asteroid and shielded by stealth arrays, Site Black was once an experimental listening post. Now, it was humanity's last sanctuary. No light escaped. No signal left its hull. The cold alone could kill. But for Captain Elena Rourke and the survivors of Earth's fall, it was home. The command deck thrummed with the quiet murmur of activity. Jury-rigged equipment hummed beside scavenged alien tech. Engineers moved between fusion coils and half-disassembled plasma rifles. Drones patrolled the outer tunnels like silent wolves. We've confirmed 2 more supply raids, Captain, reported Reyes, now sporting a synthetic arm cobbled together from Thalzon drone parts. No casualties. They never saw us coming. Good, Rourke said, eyes scanning a holomap marked with red enemy positions and pulsing green human raids. Keep hitting soft targets. Starve them. Make them paranoid. The plan wasn't victory. Not yet. It was survival, measured in weeks, then months, and chaos, methodically sown. Each surviving cell of Earth's forces had gone dark, disappearing like ghosts. The aliens called it fragmentation. Rourke called it evolution. All tactics had failed. Now humanity adapted, not by playing fair, but by playing smarter, nastier. Below the command deck, the labs buzzed with dangerous invention. Dr. Ava Chen, a cybernetics expert turned weapons designer, had turned salvaged alien AI cores into self-replicating virus bombs. Each one, she said proudly, can corrupt a Thalzon system in under 30 seconds. Upload this into a cruiser's mainframe and it'll turn on its own fleet. And if they trace it back to us, they won't, Chen smirked. We modeled the code off their own. It'll look like an internal failure, an accident. Rourke nodded. Then it's time we start making accidents happen. In the dark, humanity became myth. The Thalzon whispered of Terran wraiths that appeared in the void and left only wreckage. Scouts vanished. Communication lines cut. Supplies lost in transit. Minor anomalies, they said. Glitches. Nothing to fear. But fear crept in anyway. On board the Vindicator, Admiral Vrozek paced with increasing agitation. Another freighter lost. Another forward base gone silent. His officers fumbled for excuses, but the pattern was forming. Something was wrong. They were broken, he hissed to his second-in-command. We saw them die. We crushed their world. Perhaps we didn't crush it enough, the aide murmured. Vrozek's mandibles clicked in irritation. Still, the whispers spread, across ships, across worlds. The idea that humans hadn't just survived but were striking back, it was unthinkable. And yet, every missing convoy, every malfunctioning outpost fed the fire. Back at Site Black, Rourke stood before her gathered crew, voice low but sharp. They took our world, she said. But they made one mistake. They left us breathing, and that means they are not safe. Behind her, screens displayed a dozen red-marked Thalzon worlds. Rourke pointed to them. Next, we make them bleed. The first strike. The first blow landed without warning. A Thalzon refueling station orbiting Vexor 9 erupted in silence. One moment it was a bustling logistics hub with 28 cruisers docked. The next, it was a flaming graveyard, torn open by explosive charges planted inside its own coolant lines. No one saw the human stealth ship slip away in the debris field. 2 hours later, a mining colony on Kortal reported power grid anomalies. By the time they realized their AI had been hijacked, it was too late. Automated drills spun wild, reactors overloaded, and the colony core cracked open like an egg. No human forces were seen. Only a coded message left behind. You should have finished the job. Admiral Vrozek's claws dug into the metal railing of the Vindicator's command deck as report after report flooded in. 5 attacks in one day. All coordinated. All devastating. All impossible. They are supposed to be scattered, he growled. They shouldn't even have a fleet left. But they did. And it was growing. At Site Black, Captain Rourke reviewed the footage in grim silence. Her team had struck targets across 3 systems. Each strike was a masterpiece of human adaptation. Alien drones repurposed as walking bombs, Thalzon weapons turned against their own makers, orbital tugs slinging asteroids with the precision of guided missiles. What's next? Reyes asked, watching the wreckage of a Thalzon munitions factory spin across the screen. Rourke looked up. Her eyes burned with focus. We take their fleet. It started with a trap. A derelict cargo hauler drifted through the heli's perimeter zone, broadcasting a distress signal in Thalzon code. Predictably, a patrol cruiser intercepted the call. When it latched on with its docking clamps, the hauler's side panels peeled open, revealing a boarding pod packed with Marines in vacuum armor. The boarding lasted 3 minutes. Human hacking crews injected Chen's AI virus directly into the cruiser's systems. Turrets turned on Thalzon crew. Doors sealed shut. By the time the smoke cleared, the ship was under human control. Rourke stood on its bridge not an hour later. This is payback, she whispered. In the next 10 hours, 3 more cruisers were hijacked. One was used to infiltrate a Thalzon fleet gathering near the moon of Jalvex. With perfect timing, the corrupted ship opened fire on its own formation, detonating fuel lines and causing a chain reaction that consumed 8 warships in seconds. The galaxy noticed. Every military channel crackled with panicked traffic. Civilian outposts scrambled for protection. Member races of the Thalzon Alliance quietly began fortifying their own borders, unsure if they were next. And above the ruined outpost of Vitriol 4, the stars flickered, and then blinked out entirely. A human fleet emerged from the shadow of a gas giant. Not large, but terrifying in its precision. A mix of retrofitted Terran ships and stolen alien craft, bristling with weapons and vengeance. They broadcast one message to the nearby Thalzon listening posts. "This is Captain Rourke. Earth lives. And now, so do its consequences." The shockwave. The galaxy shook. Admiral Vrozek stared at the shattered remains of his fleet, his claws trembling against the cold metal of his bridge's command table. Across the viewports of the Vindicator, the wreckage of 8,000 warships floated, silent, dead monuments to humanity's defiance. There was no fanfare, no victory cries, just cold, hard destruction. "What do we do now?" his second-in-command, Krivak, asked softly, the weight of their losses heavy in the air. Vrozek's mandibles clicked, the frustration building in his throat. He stopped himself, then looked to the screens again. His gaze locked on the coordinates where a dozen human ships now stood, the human fleet a dark mass against the backdrop of distant stars. The same fleet that had wiped out their best cruisers, stolen their command ships, and torn apart entire supply chains. Humanity was no longer the fragile prey they had believed it to be. A transmission pinged through on Vrozek's console. It was a single line of text, encrypted but easily decipherable. "This is Captain Elena Rourke. You started this war. Now you end it." On the surface of Vexaprime, the Thalzon capital, the streets were in chaos. Frightened civilians scrambled to shelters as alien military leaders scrambled to deploy more fleets, more weapons, to quash the growing unrest in the colonies. The rebellion was spreading, and it was no longer just humans stirring the pot. Races once subjugated by the Thalzon began to rise up, emboldened by humanity's tenacity. The Thalzon Empire had fractured from within. At the heart of it all, Rourke stood aboard the Dawnbringer, the flagship she had stolen in her first raid. The ship's controls were still alien to her, but the sight of it, of their fleet, was everything she needed. Every tactic had been designed for this moment. "Bring them to me," Rourke ordered, her voice firm. The human fleet moved with precision, cutting through the chaos of the Thalzon defensive lines. They hit the heart of Vexaprime's orbit with a speed and fury that left the enemy reeling. The battle was fierce. Waves of alien ships surged to meet them, but it was no longer enough. Rourke and her crew, fighters, engineers, hackers, had learned to use the Thalzon's own weapons against them. Alien fleets crumbled under coordinated human attacks, corrupted AI systems, and hijacked ships. On the bridge of the Vindicator, Vrozek watched his last line of defense evaporate, one ship after another breaking apart under human fire. His hands gripped the console, a final, desperate command on his tongue. But then, all comms went silent. No messages, no reinforcements, just a cold, empty void. Rourke's fleet emerged above the capital, their weapons trained on the heart of the Thalzon stronghold. And then, across the galaxy, every Thalzon listening post received the same broadcast, a human transmission that carried the weight of 100 worlds. "This is Captain Rourke. The war is over. Earth is free. And now, the galaxy will learn what happens when you underestimate humanity." Vrozek's empire had fallen. The galaxy, forever changed, would never forget the day humanity struck back. This wraps up the arc with a powerful final strike and a shift in galactic power. Let me know if you want to explore any specific elements further or refine any sections.